That's science. Episode 3, Teleportation. We'll start this episode with a disclaimer that science is not always based on any scientific facts or evidence. Parts of episodes may be purely fictional and speculative. It is meant to be sarcasm, very speculative, and to at times treat fantasy and fact as equal. This episode is not intended to cause any harm or offense to anyone. There may be repeating stupid statements which can cause seizures in some persons. Please view it at your own risk and discretion. And now, that's science.
Welcome to another episode of That's Science, the show where we explore the most amazing and unbelievable scientific phenomena and technologies. I'm your host, Bethany Burke, and today we have a special episode for you. We're going to talk about one of the most fascinating and controversial topics in science, teleportation. Yes, you heard me right, teleportation. The ability to move from one place to another in an instant, without traveling through the physical space between them. Sounds impossible, right? Well, not according to some scientists and inventors who claim to have achieved or are working on achieving this feat. But how does it work? What are the benefits and risks of teleportation? And is it really science, or just science fiction? To answer these questions, we have two experts with us today. On one side, we have Dr. Alice Jefferson, a physicist and a researcher at the Quantum Information Laboratory. She is an advocate of quantum teleportation, a process that involves transferring quantum information from one particle to another, even when they are far apart. On the other side, we have Mr. Bob Amentis, an engineer and a founder of the Teleportation Corporation. He is a proponent of classical teleportation, a process that involves transferring matter from one location to another, without physically moving it. They will debate and discuss the pros and cons of teleportation, and try to convince us that their method is the best and the most feasible. Let's welcome them to the show. Dr. Alice, Mr. Bob, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bethany. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Beth. It's an honor to be here.
So, let's start with the basics. What is teleportation, and how does it work?
Well, Bethany, teleportation is a concept that explores the possibility and the implications of transporting matter or information from one location to another without traversing the physical space between them. Teleportation technology is based on the principles of quantum mechanics, which describe the behavior of subatomic particles such as electrons, photons, and atoms.
That's right. Teleportation is a concept that explores the possibility and the implications of transporting matter or information from one location to another without traversing the physical space between them. Teleportation technology is based on the principles of quantum mechanics, which describe the behavior of subatomic particles, such as electrons, photons, and atoms.
Wait a minute, you both said the same thing. Are you agreeing with each other?
No, Bethany, we are not agreeing with each other. We are just stating the general definition of teleportation. But there are two main types of teleportation, quantum teleportation and classical teleportation, and they are very different from each other.
Yes, we are not agreeing with each other. We are just stating the general definition of teleportation. And yes, there are two main types of teleportation, quantum teleportation and classical teleportation. And they are very, very different from each other.
Okay. So what are the differences between quantum teleportation and classical teleportation?
Quantum teleportation involves the transfer of quantum information, such as the state or the spin of a particle, from one particle to another, even when they are separated by a large distance. Quantum teleportation relies on the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, which occurs when two particles share the same existence and influence each other, regardless of the distance between them. Quantum teleportation does not transport matter, but only information, and it requires a classical channel to communicate the measurement results. Quantum teleportation has been demonstrated in various experiments, such as teleporting photons on computer chips, teleporting atoms in optical traps, and teleporting information from Earth to orbit.
Classical teleportation involves the transfer of matter, such as the atoms or molecules of an object, from one location to another, without physically moving them. Classical teleportation requires a process of scanning, encoding, transmitting, decoding, and reconstructing the matter, while destroying the original copy. Classical teleportation is similar to the concept of replication or cloning, but it preserves the identity and the uniqueness of the object. Classical teleportation has not been achieved yet, as far as I'm allowed to divulge, but it has been proposed and simulated in various theoretical models, such as the quantum circuit model, the quantum cellular automaton model, and the quantum graph model.
Wow, that sounds very complicated and confusing. Can you give us some examples of how quantum teleportation and classical teleportation would work in practice?
Sure, Bethany, let me give you an example of quantum teleportation. Suppose you have a pair of entangled photons, A and B, that are in a superposition of two states, horizontal and vertical polarization. Now suppose you want to teleport the state of photon A to another photon C that is located far away from A and B. To do this, you need to perform a joint measurement on photons A and B using a device called a Bell state analyzer. This device will project the photons into one of four possible states, both horizontal, both vertical, one horizontal and one vertical, or one vertical and one horizontal. Depending on the outcome of the measurement, you will obtain one of four possible bits of information, 0, 0, 0, 1, 10, or 11. You then need to send these bits to the location of photon C using a classical channel, such as a radio wave or a fiber optic cable. Once photon C receives these bits, it can apply a corresponding operation, such as a rotation or a flip, to change its state to match the state of photon A. This way, you have successfully teleported the quantum information of photon A to photon C without sending photon A itself.
That's a very academic, boring, and useless example, as usual. Let me give you a better example of classical teleportation. Suppose you have a person, I suppose, named Alice. You want to teleport from New York to Paris. To do this, you need to scan this Alice's body with a device called a quantum scanner. This device will capture every atom and molecule of Alice's body and encode them into a string of binary digits, or bits. This string will be very, very long, about 10 to the 28 bits, or 10 billion gigabytes. You then need to send these bits to Paris using a device called a quantum transmitter. This device will use a powerful laser beam or a satellite signal to transmit the bits at the speed of light. Once the bits arrive in Paris, you need to decode them with a device called a quantum decoder. This device will interpret the bits and reconstruct Alice's body with a device called a quantum printer. This device will use a molecular assembler to arrange atoms and molecules according to the bits and create a replica of Alice's body. This way, you have successfully teleported Alice from New York to Paris without moving Alice herself.
Wow, that sounds very exciting, somewhat disturbing, and amazing, Bob. But wait, what happens to the original Alice in New York? Is she still alive? Or is she destroyed?
Well, that's a very good question. And the answer is, she is destroyed. Yes, you heard me right, she is destroyed. The quantum scanner which scans Alice's body also destroys it, breaking it down into atoms and molecules. This is a necessary step to prevent the creation of multiple copies of Alice, which would violate the law of conservation of mass and energy, and create paradoxes and tedious ethical dilemmas. So, the original Alice in New York is gone, and the new Alice in Paris is born.
You're kidding me. What the heck? That's horrible, Bob. How can you do that to Alice? How can you kill her and replace her with a copy?
Don't worry. It's not as bad as it sounds. This new Alice in Paris is not just a copy, she is an exact replica of the original Alice in New York. She has the same memories, personality, feelings, and identity as the original Alice. In fact, is carrying her ID card if she remembered to bring it. Note to self, have them carry passports. She is Alice, in every sense of the word. She is not aware of the teleportation process, and she does not feel any pain or discomfort. She is happy and healthy, and ready to enjoy her trip to Paris.
But how can you be so sure, Bob? How can you guarantee that the new Alice is the same as the old Alice? How can you prove that she is not a different person, or a zombie, or a soulless machine?
Trust me. I can be sure. I can guarantee. And I can prove that the new Alice is the same as the old Alice. I have tested and verified the accuracy and reliability of the classical teleportation technology, using various methods and measurements. Mice, monkeys, and illegal immigrants. I have teleported myself. You
were saying, Bob, that you have tested and verified the classical teleportation technology, using various methods and measurements.
Yes. Actually, I have teleported myself, my family, my friends, and my pets, many times, and they are all fine and happy. I have also teleported many objects, such as cars, phones, laptops, and books, and they are all functional and intact. I have even teleported some famous celebrities, such as Tom Cruise, Beyoncé, and Elon Musk, and they have endorsed and praised my technology. You can watch their testimonials on my website, www.teleportationcorp.com.
Yikes, Bob. That's very extraordinary and remarkable. But what about the ethical issues of destroying and creating people and objects? Don't you think this technology could be or is flat out wrong and immoral?
No. I don't think that's wrong or immoral. I think that's right and moral. I think it's the future of humanity and civilization. I think that it is the ultimate expression of freedom and creativity. I think it is the best way to explore and enjoy the world and the universe. I think that's science.
Okay, Bob. I'm not sure if I agree with you, but I respect your opinion and your vision. Thank you for sharing your perspective and experience with us. Now, let's turn to Alice. Alice, what do you think of Bob's classical teleportation technology? Do you agree with him, or do you have a different view?
Bethany, I think Bob's classical teleportation technology is a hoax, a scam, and a danger. I don't agree with him. I have a very different view. I think his technology is not based on science, but on fiction. I think his technology is not feasible, but impossible. I think his technology is not beneficial, but harmful. I think his technology is not ethical, but immoral. I think his technology is not teleportation, but murder.
Are you serious, Alice? That's very harsh and strong. Why do you say that? Can you explain your reasons and your evidence?
Sure, Bethany. I can say that and I can explain it. My reasons and my evidence are based on the laws of physics, the principles of logic, and the facts of reality. Let me start with the laws of physics. The laws of physics are the fundamental rules which govern the behavior of matter and energy in the universe. They are universal, invariant, and consistent. They are not arbitrary, subjective, or negotiable. They are not violated, broken, or circumvented. They are not changed, modified, or updated. They are the laws of physics, and they are the laws of nature. One of the laws of physics is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. This principle states that there is a limit to how precisely we can measure the position and the momentum of a particle at the same time. The more we know about one, the less we know about the other. This principle applies to all quantum systems, such as electrons, photons, and atoms. This principle implies that there is no way to scan a quantum system without disturbing it, and there is no way to encode a quantum system without losing information. This principle also implies there is no way to clone a quantum system without violating the law of conservation of mass and energy. And there is no way to delete a quantum system without violating the law of conservation of information. This principle is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, and it is the law of physics. Another law of physics is the no-cloning theorem. This theorem states there is no quantum operation that can create an identical copy of an arbitrary quantum state. This theorem applies to all quantum systems, such as electrons, photons, and atoms. This theorem implies that there is no way to replicate a quantum system without destroying the original, and there is no way to preserve the identity and the uniqueness of a quantum system. This theorem also implies there is no way to teleport a quantum system without entanglement, and there is no way to entangle a quantum system without measurement. This theorem is the no-cloning theorem, and it is the law of physics. These laws of physics are the reasons and the evidence that Bob's classical teleportation technology is a hoax, a scam, and a danger. His technology claims to scan, encode, transmit, decode, and reconstruct matter, without disturbing, losing, violating, destroying, or changing it. His technology claims to create an exact replica of a person or an object, without cloning, replicating, deleting, or entangling it. His technology claims to preserve the identity and the uniqueness of a person or an object, without measuring, communicating, or operating on it. His technology claims to do all these things, but these things are impossible according to the laws of physics. Again, his technology violates the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, the no-cloning theorem, and many other laws of physics. I'll reiterate. His technology is not based on science, but on fiction. His technology is not feasible, but impossible. His technology is not beneficial, but harmful. His technology is not ethical, but immoral. His technology is not teleportation, but murder.
Thank you, Alice. That's very clear and convincing. But what about the practical issues of quantum teleportation? Don't you think that's too complex and limited? Don't you think that's too slow and inefficient?
No, Bethany, I don't think it's too complex and limited. I don't think it's too slow and inefficient. I think that's simple and elegant. I think that's fast and efficient. I think that's the reality of quantum mechanics and information. I think that's the future of communication and computation. I think that's the ultimate expression of accuracy and reliability. I think that's the best way to understand and manipulate the world and the universe. I think that's science.
Okay, folks, this has been a very interesting and enlightening discussion. We have heard from two experts on the topic of teleportation, Dr. Alice Jefferson, of Quantum Information Laboratory, and Mr. Bob Amentis, founder of the Teleportation Corporation. We have learned a lot about the different types, methods, benefits, and risks of this technology. We have also witnessed a lively and heated debate between them, and we have seen how they differ in their views and arguments. But what do you think? Do you agree with Alice or with Bob? Do you prefer quantum teleportation or classical teleportation? Do you think teleportation is possible or impossible? Do you think teleportation is science or fiction? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time on That Science.